Project Drawdown was an amazing effort undertaken by Paul Hawken and team, the first phase of which culminated in 2017. Paul Hawken first came to my attention when he wrote a book called Natural Capitalism. That book was about how the world's biggest corporations and industries could go greener. So that tells you where Hawken comes from. For Project Drawdown, Hawken assembled a team of scientists and PhDs to analyze a multitude of possible climate solutions. They ranked these potential solutions and identified the top 100 most impactful solutions we have available. They analyzed these solutions in terms of the greenhouse gas emissions that would be saved if the solution was implemented. And they estimated the net cost to implement the solution, which sometimes turned out to be a net savings rather than a cost. If we implement these top 100 climate solutions, by 2050 we could reduce emissions by a whopping 1,051 gigatons. Now, just to put that in perspective, during the 20-teens, global carbon emissions were about 30 to 33 gigatons per year. The Project Drawdown solutions fall into two categories. One category is ways we could reduce the sources of greenhouse gas emissions. That means cutting the amount of emissions that our society releases on a go-forward basis. The second category is sinks, ways we could absorb greenhouse gases that had been emitted, soak them up using land and living soil to do so. If you don't understand the difference between these two, take a look at my other video on adaptation and mitigation. When these top 100 climate solutions are grouped by sector, you get a diagram like this. The size of the circle indicates how much impact that particular set of solutions might have. In other words, how much of the 1,051 gigatons that set of solutions takes care of. Let's look at a few of them. Now, if you haven't read Project Drawdown, your first thought about how to fix the climate problem probably is, we've got to fix our energy and our transportation. Those are the biggest problems, right? Well, let's take a look at what the science says. Electrifying society, which means changing everything over to electricity from more sustainable sources, accounts for about a quarter of the top 100 climate solutions, or 23% of that 1,051 gigatons. This includes things like wind turbines, both offshore and onshore, solar power, solar farms, rooftop solar, concentrated solar, geothermal, and yes, they included nuclear in there. Transportation, changing to electric vehicles, improving our ships and trucks and airlines and mass transit, accounts for only 4% of that 1,051 gigatons. It surprised me that transportation was so low, but perhaps it just shows us how massive energy and electricity is by comparison. I'd heard a lot about how we needed to change our buildings, particularly our heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. But buildings and cities amounted to only 5% of the 1,051 gigatons. The biggest single climate solution in the whole book was a surprising one: refrigerant management. That one solution alone amounted to 8.5% of the total 1,051 gigatons. But the biggest sector of all? Food, agriculture, and land use. This sector amounted to a staggering 45% of the 1,051 gigatons, nearly half of the potential emission reductions that the top 100 offers us. How does this happen? Remember the diagram we looked at earlier? If we change food, agriculture, and land use, these solutions pull double duty. They both reduce sources of emissions and they increase sinks. Solutions in this sector include everything from diet and food waste to land management and protecting ecosystems. The fantastic thing is, these are things that small farmers around the world can participate in. All of these solutions come back to one simple concept: living soil. Remember that in the Soil and Ecosystems unit, we talked about the living organisms within healthy organic soil? The top 100 climate solutions are about growing those living organisms everywhere possible. Tropical forests, temperate forests, silvopasture, wetlands management. The bad news here is that the kind of conventional agriculture we've become accustomed to in the United States, that our massive corporations have outsourced to countries around the world, is in profound conflict with this. Our concepts about development and clearing land are in profound conflict with this. Now, the food and agriculture solutions include shifting agricultural practices so that they grow living soil, regenerative agriculture, managed grazing, farmland restoration. But what from this sector is at the very top of the top 100 list? The number 3 and number 4 solutions on the top 100 list are reducing food waste and plant-rich diets. Now, that doesn't mean everyone needs to go pure vegan. Remember, silvopasture is number 9 and managed grazing is number 19 on the top 100 list. Animals do have a significant role in agriculture and in building these living soils that we desperately need. However, particularly within first world countries, the importance of reducing food waste and increasing the plant-rich elements of our diets cannot be understated. Before I move on, I want to mention one more sector in the top 100. This sector includes educating girls and family planning. When implemented around the world, these two are number 6 and number 7 on the top 100 climate solutions. Project Drawdown's top 100 list gives us a giant leap forward in imagining what the future portion of the societal transformation could look like. But what has Project Drawdown left out? Can you see what's missing? Here's a hint.